Today we're reacting to couples plan to run off on out-of-town plug turned fatal. I remember back in my day, I ran off on a couple plugs, I ain't gonna lie. And I ain't gonna lie, sometimes I feel like that when I go back to my city, I'm just gonna pop up and see them. But shit, I keep my shit. So if it get to that, it's gonna be that. Goddamn. I ran off when I was young too. This one I was serving. I was a teenager, so don't think I'm a grown man running off on plugs and shit. Nah, that's not what's going on. I was a young just doing young. So hey, if y'all rock with me, please go pull up to my main reaction channel, Astral Dior Plus. Over here, you're getting a whole different type of reactions. We're closing in on 50K, and over here, we're closing in on 20K, so I really appreciate that. Let's get to the video.
When most people decide they want to make some fast money, not working a typical 9 to 5, and still maintain a certain lifestyle, most choose to jump into the streets. You could be the biggest trapper, or stepper in your area, or neck of the woods. People could respect you, know not to play with you and your team because you have built a name for yourself that carries weight. But what most fail to realize, just because you that dude in your city doesn't mean nothing when you hit that highway and choose to play the game in somebody else's backyard. In different parts of the world, the rules in the street changes place to place. For example, an individual could be the man down south, where they hustle in trap houses, make plays off their phone, and people respect him, as long as everybody eating. But if that same individual goes up north, where people serve on blocks, sell different products, and go to war about certain neighborhoods, making more money, that same trap star might find himself lost in the sauce. Because the way they move is not the way he used to moving. Some street dudes pride themselves on being able to adapt and make things shake anywhere, no matter what part of the world they come from. But when you talk different, move different to the locals, it's almost like putting blood in the water with hungry sharks. And depending who you choose to swim with, usually the one that doesn't understand how to navigate those waters gets ate. And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we'll be discussing a couple's plan to run off on an out-of-town plug that turned fatal. All the way back in 2007, a young Baltimore couple were navigating life in the city. They were at the time 28-year-old Lance Walker and his girlfriend, 31-year-old Dior Marino. The two had made a pretty decent life for themselves, living outside the city in a nice home in Perry Hall, Baltimore County. And despite not going the traditional route into a courthouse, Lance and Dior considered themselves married and husband and wife. But see, Lance was a street dude that had deep ties in the city and allegedly had a little bit of rank in BGF, or the Black Gorilla Family for out-of-towners. In and out of trouble at a young age, most of his convictions were drug-related, in which a lot of his years were spent in and out of Maryland correctional institutions. But that wouldn't stop the couple from making legit moves also. But Lance always stayed in the mix and knew exactly what was going on in the streets. So when someone introduced him to a Jamaican-born Bronx, New York trapper, 31-year-old Marlon Bedford, the two men clicked instantly, both coming from a street background. Marlon had a shop in the Bronx, allegedly getting pounds of grass straight from Jamaica for the low. And even though the money was good up top, he knew he could double that in Baltimore if he found the right person with the right ties to get it off for him. That's where Lance came into play. As the two men chopped it up, Marlon let it be known he wasn't no small-time hustler and asked Lance, could you get off pounds? Lance said, yeah, this my city. I'm in the mix. It's no problem. So Marlon hit the man with $48,000 worth of grass.
Ooh. What's that? How many P's is that?
And told him, let me know when you are done and we can keep getting money together. After that, Marlon headed back to New York. Excited, Lance instantly told his girl, like, yo, we on. As Lance hit the streets to get the money, time went by, and Marlon would text and call his phone.
It was taking some time. That's a lot of gas, and he was ties in, so it seemed like he wasn't even in, like he had moved out. He's coming to move back into the street, like to go back in there and try to get this shit together.
Like, yo, you finished that pack and got that bread for me?
Right.
But little did Marlon know, Lance was on what we like to say in Baltimore, a takeoff mission. Meaning you give me something, I tell you in your face, I'ma pay it back. But in my mind, you beat. I took you off. That's mine, and you could try to get it back in blood.
Okay.
But as Lance thought a little deeper about the situation, he figured somebody that had that much weight might be plugged in to something bigger and not no petty trapper. So he figured the best thing to do is get Marlon out the way for good. Lance spoke to Nadira about his
He was
plan.
gonna knock him off about 48,000.
Like Shorty
I mean,
text
shit,
your
niggas get killed for much less, but damn.
back, tell him I got jammed up with some ready or girl for out of towners. But let him know you got that bread for him and to drive down and meet you. She did what she was told and text Marlon, like you can come meet me and get that bread. Feeling good, like he laid the foundation in Baltimore, Marlon felt eventually Lance will make bail and they could continue doing business together. On October 30th, 2007, Marlon hopped in his whip with his infant godson and the child's mother and headed south
man, what's up with this nigga doing? Come on, bro, you
to
don't.
Baltimore. Nadira sent him a pickup address at the Ravenwood Apartments in the 5800 block of Edge Park Road. The area was in Northeast Baltimore, but when Marlon pulled up to the location, he didn't realize a Lincoln Navigator was creeping. Seconds later, multiple shots went off, striking the man. As neighbors heard the commotion, they called BPD, who responded to the scene to find Marlon suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. His female passenger and his godchild was unharmed, but the young lady
Thank you.
was shaken up. Marlon was rushed to a local hospital, where unfortunately he wouldn't survive his injuries.
Marlon, come on, Marlon. You don't gotta be from nowhere to not to think, especially you in that type of lifestyle. You didn't think you was gonna come down here and some shit was you ain't think to be like, okay, just in the event, I'ma turn this bitch up if I got to.
The female passenger, who we call Kenya, told police they were in town to pick up some money from a female, but she stated the woman never showed up. Instead, a man pulled up, shooting out of a Navigator. As detectives searched Marlon's phone records, they found messages between him and Nadira. Being familiar with Lance, they knew he wasn't in jail, and also that he drove a Navigator. A few months would go by as BPD were trying to build a case on the couple. They showed Kenya a photo lineup in which she pointed to Lance as the shooter. Then in December 2007, as Lance was driving the same whip through the city, he was pulled over. Inside the car, they found handguns, a few ounces of grass, a few ounces of ratty, and some smack. He was taken into custody. Before police revealed, he also had a warrant out for first and second degree hit charges. Not long after, Nadira was picked up at their home in the 9800 block of Red Wing Drive in Perry Hall.
These are just too stupid. These are just three, I ain't gonna lie, God rest his soul, three dumb ass people. Dumb. Everybody.
From Maryland, also hit with the same charges. Both remained silent. As the case started making its way to trial, Kenya was the state's key witness. She told the court her and Marlon thought Lance was locked up and they were meeting his wife to pick up the money. But that's when Marlon was ambushed. In a fit of rage, Lance told her, "Don't worry about it. I know where you live. Since you want to sit in the courtroom and tell something," to the point the young lady was scared and he had to be restrained. She stated she was in fear for her life and also said Nadira was just as guilty because she lured them to the apartment. Even though the couple's attorney argued Marlon was a drug dealer and that anybody could have wanted him gone stepping in another city, Kenya's testimony and phone records was enough for Lance to be found guilty on all charges, sentenced to life plus 20 years in prison.
Bet that wasn't worth 48,000. Stupid nigga.
Prosecutors also told the court the couple were writing letters in which they compared each other to Bonnie and Clyde, which didn't help Nadira. As she cried, she was sentenced to 40 years in prison.
Yeah, good.
Both appealed their cases as time went on, with Nadira stating she changed her life for the better and is now helping the female inmates understand the dangers of the street life. But both appeals were denied. Rest in peace to Marlon. I send my prayers and condolences to his family. This goes to show you, the game you might play in your city could be all love, but when you come around somebody else's city, the rules could change.
that was just not smart on Marlon part. I ain't gonna lie. Let me know how y'all feel though. Like the video, sub up, comment up, binge watch the channel, man. I love y'all. Appreciate y'all. I'm great for y'all. And we gone, bro. ADD lad, do it.